Hi, I'm Dr. Daviso, and welcome to my lesson on presenting and enhancing content for your students. This approach is out of the University of Kansas and looks at a different way of providing content to students, as well as helping you plan your lessons more effectively and let your students know exactly what you are expecting them to learn. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see what we can find out about this process for enhancing and presenting content to students in mixed ability classrooms. This training is part of the material that's presented in the Universal Design Strategies for Mixed Ability Classrooms. This manual was put together by Robert Baer, Tina Bastock, myself, and Carol Feldman-Sparber. You can find more information on our LiveBinder site, which contains a lot of supplemental material. This site is intended to be dynamic, so check back frequently as information is added every few months and updated as new information emerges. So where did this training come from? This training was developed and draws from an earlier version developed by the Office of Exceptional Children and the Division of Career and Technical Education. It's based on teacher focus groups who identified the need to improve outcomes for all students as their highest priority. This particular manual goes beyond the CTE project to focus on general education as well. So let's dive in and see what we're looking at. The organization of this training includes 7 modules. The first of which we're presenting today is on presenting and enhancing content. The next is engaging students, providing flexible assignments, assistance in providing accommodations. We're going to look at classroom management strategies, individual problem solving, and creating teacher learning communities. So we know there's a number of different ways we can begin to present content to our students. Some of us use PowerPoint, some of us use large group, small group instruction, and a lot of us in special education focus on one-on-one. And what I want to look at is, let's check out some research that looks at what is this thing we call presenting content and what does it affect on our students while we're attempting to teach them a new skill. This bit of information always makes me feel good as a teacher when we look at research indicating that people only remember about 10% of what they hear, but nearly 80% of what they see and do when they actually participate in it. That's why I'm so excited my students are here at Barberton Middle School getting hands-on experience, like learning what it's like to teach a lesson. Let's look at some other approaches and their effectiveness when it comes to delivering content to students. Let's look at a learning pyramid and looks at average retention rates on different methods of delivering instruction. As you can tell, lecture has the least amount of retention at 5%, but when it comes to teaching others, it's moved all the way up to 90%. What we're looking to do is go from passive teaching methods to participatory teaching methods, to getting our students involved in the active learning process. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to use graphic organizers for delivery. Graphic organizers can be delivered in a number of ways. There's still people who use chalkboards, easels, poster boards. If it gets your audience engaged, great. You can use PowerPoint presentations, smart boards, or even large sticky notes pasted on the wall or a board to help record information to help create a visual display of the content you would like your students to learn. The teacher may hand out partially completed organizers and have students fill in the blanks. Once again, this lets them know where you are in the lesson and what they should be attending to. Teachers may also ask students to hand these organizers in at the end of class to help check and see if they're getting the message the teacher is intending to deliver. Graphic organizers may be used to introduce a unit or a lesson, help develop vocabulary, help students master concepts or explore questions, develop listening and note-taking skills, improve assignment completion, enhance essay test taking. It can also help teach punctuation and improve editing, and direct sentence and paragraph writing can also be enhanced by this, and teaching paraphrasing. So graphic organizers can be used to help students achieve a number of their goals. So where did this lesson organizer come from? It's part of the SIM approach. This SIM lesson organizer was researched and developed at the University of Kansas. This type of organizer can be used to introduce students to a course, a unit, or just even a lesson. Many teachers like the lesson organizer because it's a way of helping them prepare for class. It's important to note that when you are going to use this approach, introducing the students to the lesson organizer is a key concept. Teachers should describe the organizer and how it's going to help students learn. It'll help them by better connecting the information to what they already know. It'll help students in describing the content and why it is important. It'll identify the key concepts and then shows the relationship between these key concepts. And then here we want to make sure they're identifying what questions they need to be able to answer at the end of the unit or lesson. And it's going to identify the tasks that the students will be expected to participate in or complete, so they have a firm overview of what's going to be happening in their classroom. All right, let's take a look at the lesson organizer matrix and what parts are involved. When we look at this, first we want to identify the current unit. Next, what we're going to ask the students what they think this unit's going to be about. We're going to talk about what happened in our last unit, or what did we cover and how does this relate? And how does this relate to what we're learning in our next unit? So it begins to help provide a structure for our students to organize their information. The next is, what is the big question? What are we asking? What do we want them to learn? And what are the key concepts of this big question? You can have you could have anywhere from 3 to 6 key concepts. I would limit it to 6 because then the matrix gets a little bit too confusing. Then we want to let them know, hey, what are the self-testing questions they're going to need? What questions are they going to need to answer when this lesson is over? And what tasks are they going to complete in order to learn this information and demonstrate their knowledge? Now that you've gotten a chance to see what the graphic organizer looks like in general, let's see what it would look like for this content unit I'm actually presenting. Let's take a look. All right, the graphic organizer for this module focuses on presenting content. And what we want to ask our students is, what do they think this module is about? And this module is about increasing materials accessibility for all students. And then we're going to look at how does this relate to our last section, which was only an introduction. But presenting content will also help us engage students, which will be a key component in our next module. What's our big question? How do we make our presentations accessible to as many students as possible? And that's what we're going to be working on through these key concepts. The key concepts of using graphic organizers, unit and lesson organizers, graphics and comics, and auditory enhancements in our classrooms. At the end, you'll know how graphic organizers are delivered, what is the purpose of the first 3 steps in a lesson organizer, what are these things we call key concepts, how can comics and graphic organizers be used in your classroom, and what is the sound field and why is it important? What are we going to do? What tasks are we going to complete? Of course, you're going to have to watch this video in lecture format. You'll see a demonstration of graphic organizers, a discussion of comics and graphic novels. We'll have a discussion on auditory enhancements. And at the end, you'll be conducting an activity in developing your own graphic organizer for a lesson of your choice. All right, so that applies to this lesson. I wonder what it would look like for an academic standard. Let's look at one for English and language arts and see how this content enhancement approach might look. All right, here's the example for academics, and this would be English and language arts, focusing on grades 9 through 10. The strand we're looking at is writing and writing explanatory text. When it comes to this approach, just quickly you can see we're looking at mapping the content standard for writing explanatory texts. I'm not going to go into all the details on this. However, when you look at this organizer, you can see we're looking at the current topic, writing informative text, how it related to standard statements. The next topic would be writing narratives. And the big question here is, how do I communicate complex ideas clearly and accurately? The key concepts would be to introduce the topic, provide background information, link to major ideas, using formal language, and then providing a conclusion. This does relate directly to my students at the middle school that are using the ACEs approach for being able to write informative text and respond to short essay questions. As you can see at the bottom, they have a number of self-test questions the students will look at and be able to answer by the end of the lesson, and the tasks they're going to do to complete them from day 1 to day 2. Okay, now that we have seen what it looks like from an academic standard, let's look at a career and technical education standard. This one will focus on hazard analysis for students that would be in a culinary arts program. Let's see how this application could apply in their classroom. All right, in this approach, we are going to map the hazard analysis standard for career and technical education. As you can see, there are a number of different steps here in competency number 15, which looks at a number of different critical factors for helping students getting prepared to work in kitchen environments. They're going to have to learn a number of standards in order to demonstrate competency. These are also correlated with English and language arts content benchmarks, and they're correlated with science academic content benchmarks. So there's a pretty thorough and detailed lesson. So let's look at what this would look like for the hazard analysis standard. All right, we're looking at the hazard analysis system. And what's this about? It's about keeping food safe. And how does it relate to our last competency standard, which was control pests? And how is it going to relate to the next one, which is keeping a safe work environment? All right, we're going to talk about food safety. Hopefully you're not watching this while eating lunch. All right, what's our big question? How do we keep food safe and how do we keep people healthy? Well, we're going to do that by demonstrating key concepts such as what are the causes of food problems, food storage and safety, demonstrating proper hygiene, keeping a clean work site, demonstrating safety with equipment, and record keeping. The self-test questions our students will need to know prior to the lesson is we want to know what are the causes of most food problems, all the way to how should dangerous chemicals be stored. The tasks they're going to complete, they're going to read this section on the causes of food problems, all the way down to as partners develop a checklist for proper kitchen maintenance. This is a very well-designed and detailed lesson to help students learn this important concept. Using graphic novels and comics is another way we can present material to students that might just pique their interest. I know a lot of the students I've seen here at the middle school are into anime, and if there's a way we can bring our content in line with their interests, what a powerful tool that would be. Let's look at a couple different ways that comics and additional graphics can help our students learn. Comics and graphic novels can be useful in illustrating concepts or the different steps of a task we want to teach our students. Comics can be useful for students with reading problems or intellectual disabilities, and they can also be helpful to depict social stories to prepare persons with autism for upcoming events. Two websites I found to be very helpful were makebelievecomics.com and Comic Life. Let's check two of these out. Here's the homepage to welcome to makebelievecomics.com. In this particular website, you can create your own comic strip, and it's relatively easy. There are a number of different apps that also correlate with this program. When you go to the website, you can check below, and it provides an overview of how this information can be used for autism spectrum disorder, individuals with hearing impairments, individuals with TBI. It could help with stuttering, struggling writers, and physical and learning disabilities. So there are a number of different resources for you to use on that site. The next site is Comic Life. And when you go to this website, you can check out, there's a number of different apps that go along with this program to be used on Windows, to be used on the iPad. There's also a number of different educational links to using it in your curriculum, in your school, and the benefits of comics to help students through the learning process. Our final way of enhancing content is to control the audio environment of our classroom. And this classroom is a fantastic example of a high-tech audio-enhanced classroom for students. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. Auditory enhancements can be used to help to improve verbal decoding for our kids. This can be done through the use of sound fields. It can be helpful for all students because it helps to filter out background noise. It helps compensate for bad acoustics. It provides good listening in all parts of the room. And it provides enhancements to students with hearing difficulties. The components of a sound field are speakers that are positioned in 4 corners of the room. The teacher uses an FM-based microphone, and students may also be provided with an FM headset receiver. The room at Barberton has exactly these components. Let's take a look at them. When it comes to these auditory enhancements, you can see here that there is a microphone and a bass, so that microphone and the FM system can charge. The microphone can be passed around to students during a lesson, and the FM system can be placed on your belt, and there's a lanyard microphone that's easily accessible, so teachers are free to continue to teach, talk with their hands, use other pieces of technology. As you can see, there are 4 speakers placed around the 4 corners of the room that provides the sound field that we just discussed. This is a great addition to any classroom. Alright guys, now that you have a nice overview of this content enhancement strategy, I want you to take this approach and apply it to the lesson you're currently doing in your mock ed TPA. We talked about 2 different ways of actually lesson planning. There's the formal assessment type that you're going to be doing for EdTPA, RESA, and OTES, and there's the real life approach that you'll be taking. This approach not only helps you stay organized, but helps your students stay on track and identify key information. So I want to see how your group will take this content enhancement strategy and use it for the lesson you're teaching. So you'll have an alternate way of presenting this material. If you have any questions, make sure you see me. Good luck.